this afternoon session, I'm going to treat something on fractions. And the objectives I want to cover for this afternoon is 1. Definition of fraction. The second one is how to represent fraction. And the third one is types of fraction. One may ask, what is a fraction? A fraction is defined as part of a whole. A fraction is defined as part of a whole. And fraction is divided into two main parts. Fraction is divided into two main parts. The top part is called the numerator. The top part, that is A, is called the numerator. And the bottom part is called the denominator. So this sign is the division sign, which is the over. So the top part is the numerator and the bottom part is the denominator. Examples of fractions, we have 1 over 2, 2 over 3, 5 over 9, 11 over 20. Now, we are having 2 over 3 here. The top part talks about how many parts we are talking about. How many parts we are talking about. And the bottom part is the total number of parts. Like when you take an orange, if an orange is divided into 3 equal parts, the total number of parts is the denominator. And the shaded part, that's how many parts we are talking about, is the numerator. When I take 1 out of the orange, that 1 is the numerator. That's how many parts we are talking about. I gave the example here. Let us take an orange. For instance, if an orange is divided into 3 parts and one of its parts is shaded, the total number of parts is the denominator, which is 3, and the parts shaded is the numerator. So we now know that the top part is the numerator and the bottom part is the denominator. And the definition of fraction, which is part of a whole. I'm having a diagram here. A diagram. I'm having a diagram. This represents an orange. This is the whole orange. So, you see this diagram, the orange is not divided now. So, we call this whole. We call this whole. I now want to explain the part of a whole. We call this whole. So, you see this orange is divided into 3 main parts. It's divided into 3 main parts. So, we see that one of these shaded parts, the 1 is the numerator, and the total number of parts, which is 3, is the denominator. That's why I said fraction is part of a whole. So, this one is shaded out of this 3, the total division, which is 3. So parts of a whole, as written here. Examples of fractions. I've given you a rectangle, a triangle, and a square. And we know that rectangle has 4 sides, triangle has 3 sides, and a square has 4 sides. This rectangle is divided into 8 main equal parts. But we see that only 2 of its sides is being shaded. This means the total division is the denominator, which is 8. Thus, the total number of parts. And the 2 which is shaded is the how many parts we are talking about, which is 2. Let's move on to the triangle. We now have total division to be 2. So the total number of parts is the denominator, which is 2. That's the bottom part. And the how many parts we are talking about is what? 1. That's the shaded part. This one too, we are having 2 over 4. This means 2 of its part is what? Shaded. And the total number of parts is what? 4. Let's move on to the last session, which is the types of fraction. There are 7 types of fraction. But basically, there are 3 main types of what? Fraction. We have improper fraction, proper fraction, mixed fraction, like fraction, unlike fraction, unit fraction, and equivalent fraction. I'll define all these types of fraction, but basically I will tackle on these 3 types of fraction. That's proper fraction, improper fraction, and what? Mixed fraction. Let me start with like fraction. When I talk of like fraction, this is a type of fraction which has the same denominators. Like fraction, it has the same denominators. Like example, I have 1/4 and 2/4. You see, we are having different denominators, but same what? Denominators. This means it's a like fraction. Unlike fraction is a type of fraction which has different denominators. Like we have 1/2 and 2/5. So 2 and 5, you see, they are different what? Denominators. They are not same denominators. So they can ask you, differentiate between like fraction and unlike fraction. Like fraction is a type of fraction which has same denominators, and unlike fraction is a type of fraction which has different denominators. Let's move on to unit fraction. Unit fraction, this is a type of fraction that has 1 as its numerator. Like I have 1/8. 1/8. This one, classify it as a unit what? Fraction. So let's move on to the three main types of fraction. The three main types of fraction. We have proper fraction, improper fraction, and mixed fraction. One may ask, what is a proper fraction? This is a type of fraction in which the numerator is less than the denominator. Example, 1/2, 5/7, 11/19, because we now know numerators and what? Denominators. Improper fraction. This is a type of fraction in which the numerator is greater than the denominator. The numerator is greater than the denominator. Improper. So we have 9/2, 20/3, 8/5, etc. Improper fractions are always changed to mixed fractions, and we haven't reached that section, so I won't treat that section now. That's changing improper fractions to what? Mixed fraction. Let's move on to the last type of fraction, which is mixed fraction. This is a type of fraction which has a whole number or natural number and a proper fraction. And whole number is the same as natural number. And mixed fractions, they are always changed to improper fractions. Mixed fractions, they are always changed to improper fractions. So example, we have one whole number, 1/2. This one is the natural or whole number, and this half is the proper fraction, because we see that this numerator is less than the denominator. Let's take 2 whole number, 1/4. This 2 is the natural number, and this is the proper fraction, because a mixed fraction cannot have a natural number and an improper fraction. No, because we convert mixed fractions to improper what? Fractions. So let me give a summary on this session. We've now treated definition of fraction, how to represent fraction, and types of fraction. And we defined fraction as parts of a whole. And I taught you how to represent fractions. That's the top part is the numerator, and the bottom part is the denominator. We have 7 types of fractions. We have proper fractions, improper fractions, mixed fractions, like fractions, unlike fractions, unit fractions, and equivalent fraction. But basically, there are 3 main types: proper fraction, improper fraction, and what? Mixed fraction. And we know that for proper fraction, the numerator is less than the denominator. And for improper fraction, the numerator is greater than the denominator. And for mixed fraction, it has a natural number and a proper fraction. Thank you and have a nice afternoon. So if you are interested in this video, you can subscribe and share on this channel. Thank you.